Welcome to the People You Should Know podcast, telling the stories of people you should know and allowing their greatness to inspire everyday people. And now, here are your weekly hosts, Danny Ferry and David Farwell.
Hello and welcome to the People You Should Know podcast. I'm your host, Danny Ferry, and alongside me today is my co-host, Dave Farwell. For our first-time listeners, we want to invite you to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are listening to us right now. Also, if you have been listening to the podcast and have really been enjoying our guests, would you please consider leaving us a review on whatever platform you are listening to us on right now? Leaving us a review will help other people be able to find us and listen to our great content. Dave, it has been a little bit since we recorded a podcast. How are you doing, man?
Well, man, overall, man, I'm doing fantastic. Just an incredible time in life right now. Actually, I'm currently on the road in Orlando, Florida. So not in my usual SoCal location, but Orlando will do because it's just a good time in life, man. The project that I've been a part of, one of our sponsors here on this show, Axe Token. We are in Orlando at the Funnel Hacking Live conference.
Oh, nice.
ClickFunnels annual conference. And we're actually here to accept an award for it's called the 2 Comma Club Award. And we successfully raised almost $1.8 million in our pre-sale for the Axe Token project. Could not be more excited for the momentum that we have both in the project. We're officially, we are officially 8 days. I didn't even do the math myself, but we are officially 8 days away from our public launch, which is, man, just unbelievable. We've been working on this project since December of 2021. And
Gotcha.
So to be only single digits away from our public launch seems almost surreal, but man, just a truly exciting time.
And so, how has it been coming back to the East Coast, right? We always joke about your disdain for humidity, but also I can't even imagine. I was just thinking about this the other day when you and I were chatting a little bit. You took the red eye to Orlando and you lose 3 hours. So how has it been just trying to catch up on sleep and kind of work through like the whole time change and everything?
I am clearly not in my 20s anymore. I can tell you that right now. And, I've learned some things. I do a lot of traveling, been a lot of places over the last year. Just a new way of life for me, traveling, and, whether it's Europe or Africa or wherever my journeys end up taking me. One of the things I'm realizing is traveling west to east is brutal. Traveling east to west, not so bad. Not so
Gotcha.
bad. So an encouragement to all of our listeners, especially if you're maybe a little bit older like I am, try to travel west.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah, gaining 3 hours is a lot easier than losing them, for sure. So yeah, it's a little rough. I'm still catching up on sleep, but as my mom always said, you can sleep when you're dead. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure most of our parents have said something like that to us, especially parents that obviously work extremely hard. I feel like my parents had a ridiculous work ethic, and I've been able to know your mom a little bit to know that she works very hard as well. So
yeah. Yep.
So I wanted to see if you would maybe talk a little bit more about this award that you guys are getting tonight. Talk about like the importance of getting this award as far as like you guys, Axe Token is a cryptocurrency. This thing is getting launched in 9 days. So what is the importance of this award? What does this mean for what you guys are doing?
Yeah, we're really in some unprecedented space, Danny. Cryptocurrencies in general tend to be very hype oriented. They tend to not really have any substance. Most crypto projects out there in the world right now, no one knows who's actually behind them. To this day, actually, it's like a giant theory. Who is actually the owner of Bitcoin?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no one really knows. And so, for us to take this project and to say, you know what, we're going to do this a whole lot different. And we're going to apply a lot of principles that we find really in Scripture. They've been around for a long time of wisdom and generosity, kindness, and at the same time transparency. right? We are, we put ourselves out there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So to be here earning this award, we're the first ever cryptocurrency project to earn this award. And not only that, but we are also the first project to earn this award, having spent $0 in ads.
Oh,
We've
wow,
really
that's
gone
amazing.
after this. Yeah, thanks, man. We've gone after this in a very relational and organic way, and we've just seen a lot of blessing on the project. And so moving forward, really establishing ourselves in the crypto space as the most trusted name in cryptocurrency, and doing a lot, working very hard in the lives of our investors to earn that title has really been the greatest joy for me in being here. Have an incredible team of people that's working on this together from all over the world, actually. And as we step into this moment of just kind of pausing before we really go into the chaos of public launch, it's been really good for us to just pause and reflect and to realize how far we've come in this project, and just to see the blessings of God on what we're doing is truly one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done in my life.
Man, that is so cool, because, excuse me, we've had a lot of discussions, obviously knowing that you're working in cryptocurrency, just about the kind of the vagueness of all of it. It came onto the scene, I think, because Bitcoin was one of the first big ones, and there is the mystery around who started it. I think it just put like this cloud of mystery all around cryptocurrencies everywhere.
Fully agree. Yeah.
And so I am really excited for what you guys are doing. I did want to talk, if you wouldn't mind, just talking about this one aspect of what you guys are doing, which is the acts of kindness. And
for sure,
this right here is one of the coolest things, one of the most important things. If you can't get behind the acts of kindness, I don't know if you have warm blood running through your body, like, just being completely honest, because just for everybody, I'll kind of say what it is, Dave, maybe, and then you can go a little bit farther with it. But 10% or 1.4% of all of the transaction fees are actually going to be going back to acts of kindness that help widows, orphans, and those who have been affected by abuse. And so I think that is an amazing thing. You do not hear about that being done with any of these other initiatives out of these cryptocurrencies, even just your normal foundational or fundamental banking institutions in the world. So, Dave, just talk a little bit more about that. Like, what was the inspiration behind it, and like maybe kind of what the response has been as you've talked to people about that?
Man, I'm not going to split any hairs on this one, Danny. It's really the thing, probably the greatest thing that sets us apart. And when we were setting out to establish the token, there was lots of paths that we could have taken, lots of ways in which we could have organized or structured this particular project. But we knew that there's this one principle, this one thing that most people in the world miss out on. That's a pretty, how do I say this, but just a very common and recurring theme that through both the Old and New Testament in the scriptures is talked about, and that's tithing.
Right.
And so we set out to say, like, what would it look like for a financial project who has these fees coming in for buying, selling, and trading the token? What if right off the very top we were to build it into the actual contract, the algorithms of the token, to say it doesn't even matter if we wanted to change it, a minimum of 10% of all that comes in is going to be set aside for acts of kindness. We've already, even in our pre-sale, have applied that principle and have been helping a tremendous number of people. And we've got our sights set on doing some pretty life-changing, maybe even world-changing ideas that we're setting our sights on for acts of kindness. If this project continues to progress as it does, we're going to be a financial project, a financial service out there in the world that is literally doing millions of dollars in acts of kindness every single year. And so for us, this was almost a non-negotiable when we started to say, you know what, before we decide anything else, let's put tithing, giving at the very center of what we do.
Man, I just want to commend Axe Token, the whole team there, and even yourself, Dave. I know you've been just putting a tremendous amount of effort and time into this project. Like, I don't even know that the words give it justice. There have been, obviously conversations that we've had, and you're working ridiculous hours just because this project matters. If the project didn't matter, I know that you wouldn't feel the need to do it. So I just wanted to commend you. Normally you're the one commending people on our podcast, but I just wanted to commend you on really just pursuing this because the number of people that are going to be impacted with the acts of kindness, but even more important, and we'll kind of end here and maybe leave it as a cliffhanger, but the number of just normal people like me, like you, that can benefit from investing in this cryptocurrency is going to be remarkable. So I just wanted to commend you with that and say great job on everything, man.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that very much. It means a lot coming from you. And yeah, I feel proud to be a part of this project.
Awesome. You should. You definitely should. I want to transition because we do have a guest today.
Dude.
I've been just so looking forward to our guest since we decided to do this podcast. Dave and I, there were a group of people that, as we've talked about, we said we really want to have on the show. We sent out a bunch of emails, and so one of the people that I wasn't sure if we could get on the show, but I really, really wanted is today's guest. His name is Jason Epperson. And I have to admit that I've secretly been Facebook stalking Jason for quite some time. So the first time that I heard of Jason was on Facebook. Interestingly enough, his wife, Beth, and I went to high school together. We were friends, graduated the same year, and we've been Facebook friends, since we graduated, which I won't say the number of years it's been since I graduated, because it's becoming more and more scary as the years go by. But one of the really interesting other parts of this is that most people know, obviously, I reside in York, PA. That's my hometown. We've talked to a lot of local people here in York, but I actually graduated in a very, very small town called Mount Sterling, Kentucky. So I've spent a lot of my formative years in Kentucky, and that's where Jason and his wife, Beth, live. And what's really interesting about Jason is that he has founded and established a company called Eppic Films. And so we'll definitely have the link to the website in the show notes. But one of the things that I saw some really incredible videos that Beth was posting and then Jason was posting. And I actually went to the website and I found out he's not just a videographer, and not that there's anything wrong with being a videographer, but Jason actually is doing and was doing and still is professional commercials and promotional video work for some really, really well-known brands. And I'm actually going to have him talk about it. So I just really, I'm super excited to talk to Jason today. I'm excited to talk to him about some very Kentucky things, because there are things that Kentucky that are held near and dear in Kentucky. And then of course we're going to obviously hear about how Jason built his professional company in central Kentucky. So one of the really cool things is if you go on his website, it actually talks about this, and I'm going to ask him, I'd love to ask him about it, but how he was able to actually grab talent from Hollywood and have them come to central Kentucky to do some of this really amazing work. So, Dave, are you ready to talk to a guest from my old Kentucky home, my friend?
Let's bring on Kentucky, brother.
Let's do it. All right, guys, let's bring on Mr. Jason Epperson. Hey, Jason, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for being on today.
Thank you for having me. Super to be here.
Yeah, we can definitely tell that Jason is from central Kentucky, which is beautiful. It's always cool to have conversations with some old friends from back in Kentucky. Jason, you want to know something that's really interesting about me having lived in Kentucky? So I originally grew up here in York, Pennsylvania, and then moved to Kentucky. And interestingly enough, I picked up on the accent actually rather quick. And so I would visit back home here and I would have the thick Southern accent. But as you can tell now,
it's gone.
It's gone.
You're not from Kentucky.
Exactly. Yeah. No one would know that. But when I came back, everyone was like, "Wow, I can tell that you lived in the South." It's really crazy.
Yeah. Well, and with me, it's pretty thick, as you can tell. So there's no use in even trying to hide where I'm from. What's kind of funny, so I did live in LA for a little bit. Just while we're on that topic, no one could ever pinpoint where I was from. I even had a lot of people like Australia. Are you from Europe? Or they had no clue. I'm like, Kentucky.
Yep.
In the mountains.
That's awesome, man. Well, we were kind of talking a little bit about your company, Eppic Films. I was talking a little bit at the beginning, just kind of prepping the audience about how at first I thought that you were a videographer, but as I did some website research, that's what we'll call it instead of Facebook stalking, I found out that you're not just a videographer, but that you're a full production company, and you guys are actually, just reading off your website, you're an award-winning film and television production company, and so I really wanted to talk a little bit about maybe like the early days for you. Talk to us a little bit about growing up in Kentucky, maybe talk a little bit about your childhood, and was there interest in filming, videography, stuff like that kind of from an early age?
Sure. Yeah, there was a little bit of interest, but I was kind of pretty well-rounded as a kid. I've got 3 brothers and a sister, all of them. Well, the closest sibling to me is 11 years older than me. So wasn't super close. I was, for the most part, almost felt like an only child in that aspect. But I had a fun childhood. I was into a lot of stuff. I'm pretty competitive by nature, so I played a lot of different sports. I kind of got that short syndrome, so shorter than the average guy, so I had a lot to prove. I kind of felt like my dad he was an entrepreneur. He was very successful, owned a lot of different businesses, so kind of really looked up to him. Kind of, I guess as sons, we all want to do better than our dad, and so I kind of had that mentality, I think, growing up. My first interest in any type of video production, my dad actually just bought us a camera. For our family, and it was the one. This is going to date me for sure. It was the camera. I actually carried my VCR around this pouch. I had to put the whole VCR in your pouch, hit play and record on a VHS tape. VHS tape for you kids is that's tape. And then had a cable that ran out to the camera. So it was a monster big setup, and I would take it around. We had about 5 acres of land. My friends would come over. I was into golf, right? I was a big golfer in the day, and we would go around different places on my property, and I kind of like we're in the Masters. And we actually had a golf green. My dad built a golf green on our land, and it was like legit. He was friends with the greenskeepers at a golf course. Gave him all the equipment, all the stuff. So we built this golf green. Everybody come over to my house. We'd play the Masters, and I would film it all. And then we would go back in and like critique ourselves and our swings and things like that. So that's one of the earliest memories I have, like of just kind of playing around. Of course, it's just fun. You're just with your friends. We did some skateboarding videos. We did those types of things. But I'm like, I never in my mind thought that I would have a career doing anything with video at that point.
So that is absolutely incredible. So do you remember like what year that was? Because I'm just thinking back through the years, right? Like as technology advanced rather quickly, even during my childhood, like VHS to CDs and then CDs to kind of DVDs. And that's just incredible. Do you remember like what year that was that you guys were like?
It's probably when I was around 10, so mid-'80s.
Mid-'80s.
Late 80s is when I was kind of into that type stuff.
Yeah, that's perfect. So were you guys big into like the Atari and playing like those types of games during that time as well? Yeah,
I guess for video games, the first Nintendo that came out was
gotcha.
Another funny story with that. So my parents did not buy me the Nintendo initially, and I told you I was into golf. But my dad had, if you're familiar with golf, there's a brand, the Ping brand.
Mm-hmm.
My dad found a Ping putter, and I know I'll ramble too, by the way. So
no, this is awesome, man. I love it.
What this interview is supposed to be about. But so he bought me a Ping putter. No, I'm sorry. He found it in a garbage can. He found this Ping putter in a garbage can outside of one of his businesses, and he cut it down. Remember, I'm really short, so he had to cut this thing down really short for me, and I was about 10 years old. But what was interesting about it was when you put it and hit the ball, it actually went ping, ping, and I guess it was one of the originals, and that's why they named it, because when you hit the ball, it pinged, right?
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So I was at a golf course with my dad one day, and this gentleman walks up to me when I was on the practice green. He was hearing the ball ping, and he asked if he could see my putter, and I'm like, sure. And he looks at it. again, I'm 10 years old. This is back in whatever, 1985, whatever. Guy pulls out his wallet. He says, I will give you $100 right now for this putter. And I'm like,
that's awesome.
I walk over to Dad and I'm like, Dad, this dude wants to give me $100 for the putter. He's like, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. Or it's up to me. I take the $100, go buy my first Nintendo Entertainment Center system.
Yeah.
It's funny. So years later, I think about that, and I'm like, I guarantee you, I'm going to look up on eBay, and that putter that I gave that dude's probably worth $10,000.
Oh man, that is so cool.
I remember what it wasn't that much. It was worth a lot, but it wasn't like that. I was scared death was going to be like $1 million putter or something, and I get sold this dude for $100.
That's awesome, Jason. I wanted to push in a little bit about your dad. You said he was an entrepreneur. Like, what type of businesses? You don't have to name them all, but what type of businesses did you kind of watch him run as a child?
Well, he started out. He actually bought a liquor store.
Okay.
He did pretty well with that. He sold it relatively, probably too soon. Sold it pretty quick. Made some money off that. Then he owned. My earliest memory is he owned a pool room downtown, and I remember him sliding me in and out of the window and stuff there. But then he opened an arcade shop. He had a grocery store, and then when he finally made the big money, he owned a towing service and actually a septic business.
Okay.
Funny story about the septic. He owned it through my whole college career. So every summer I would go and work with my dad, pumping poop.
Oh man.
Yep. And I joke to people, I've had the crappiest job ever, But I tell you, and I love talking to my kids and people about this, because you talk about a humbling experience. You go through that and you work with in that type of environment.
Right.
You really appreciate when you get a good job, and
Absolutely.
a job that you want. And I really appreciate my dad giving me that opportunity and let me experience that, because I think there's a part of that really was a seed planted in me that's like, there's this option, or follow your dreams and go for something that you really want to. And that always stuck with me. It's like, I don't want to be stuck pumping this stuff out my whole life. I'd rather follow something and dream big. So
yeah, there you go.
Humbling is the best word I know how to put with that.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any way around that, Jason, other than to say you're right. That's definitely a very humbling experience. I've had some similar job experiences myself that it just left a mark on me in such a way to say, you know what, I definitely know what I don't want to do. Right. Yeah.
The People You Should Know podcast is sponsored by Empowered Creative. Empowered Creative is a digital marketing company that helps you to build a positive online reputation and increases your online leads. Are you embarrassed by the way your website looks? Do you feel overwhelmed with trying to manage your online marketing strategy? Do you just want to feel confident that your online presence is having an impact? Visit empoweredcreative.co, click Book a Consultation, and you will be on your way to building a positive online reputation, increasing your leads, and feeling the confidence you deserve about your business's online presence.
So that really leads me into kind of what I was just over here wondering about. So, for a lot of people, I think this is becoming more and more of the case as our society just continues to move in the direction that it is. So you said this is kind of something you did during your college career. You also said earlier, never in your life did you think that you would own a video production company. So what did you actually go to college for? What was your college career all about?
Well, that's kind of a funny story too. So when I went to college, I first got in broadcasting and electronic media was the first thing that I went for. And a counselor within about 2 or 3 weeks basically talked me out of doing it. He's like, he's like, look, you're in Kentucky. There's not a lot of opportunities unless you want to work in the news. And to be honest, so I went to school at EKU, Eastern Kentucky University. That's really all they taught. I mean, news, journalism, they did have studios. You did a little bit of shooting, no real teaching and lighting, anything like that. So it was kind of a deterrent for me. And I'm like, this is not really what, I like video production and I like that type stuff, but, I kind of want to make some money too, so my counselor, my dad actually is like, why don't you just try business? And so I took business and I failed horribly at that. Let me go back a little bit too. My dream as a child, honestly, was like to work for Disney. I love to draw cartoony types. And I had a real passion for that. I collected lots of books, took a lot of art classes. So once I kind of dropped out of the broadcasting, I went towards art. And I did art. I tried art education, took a lot of classes, trying to find my way to where I wanted to be. And then I guess it was about halfway through my college career, I was kind of just like, I really love that stuff. I loved doing the video stuff as a child. I'm just going to take my chances and see what happens. Because if I'm passionate about it, I heard the saying, if you find something you love, you never work a day in your life. And maybe I can have an opportunity to try to do something more than just the television side or the television news side of things. So I got back into it. I was also kind of in music as well. I love DJing and doing some things like that. So I got involved on the radio side.
Oh, nice.
There was on-campus radio station. Hooked up with some really cool, creative guys who were into that, who were into, kind of the behind the scenes, not necessarily being a DJ or whatever, but we did fun shows and giveaways and I actually started doing all the production side. So I was making the little, the intros to the shows and the bumpers and the commercials and doing all the editing for radio. And I loved it. And I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I love this stuff. It's a lot of fun. And then I had to take a video class. And I'm like, everything that I'm learning on the audio side, I can add visuals to it. And then everything started just to kind of make sense. Took the video class. Our school at that time got the first nonlinear video editing computer system. At that point, I was one of the first classes that got in and was able to work like that. I was staying up all night. I remember professors would hook us up in groups of three or four students who would go out and do these assignments. I literally would tell them, they'd be all exhausted, tired. I'm like, you go home, I got this. Matter of fact, I didn't want them to be involved because I felt like they screw up the project, right? So yeah, I would be editing all night long, working on these projects. And I started to get in that very competitive spirit. I'm like, I want to be the best editor in my class. I want to do the best projects. I want my professors to use me as an example, not to the point where I had like a big ego about it, but I'm just inherently just competitive in that way. Yeah. So I wanted to be the best, and it fueled as I started having success in that. It just kind of fueled everything for me and led me to getting fully getting the degree. I was one of the first one of my siblings and stuff to get a college degree. Got out. Funny story. I'm going to say funny story a lot because a lot of funny stories. My first job out of school, working for a news station.
Of course, right?
But it was kind of one of those things. I did some internships with and there was editing involved and things like that. So I'm like, maybe just. But I didn't work for, I don't think 3 months for the news station, and I'm like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore.
Jason, I wanted to ask you about this really cool little pocket of people. We talked about this a little bit last week when me and you were chatting a little bit. So when you graduated there, you have this little pocket of people that all graduated around the same time. And there's this group of people that have gone on to do some really successful things. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about that, what you've been seeing with that pocket of people, and maybe just even give some insight into why you think that might have happened?
That's a good question. I mean, there are several friends. I think when we were talking about it, one of my really good friends at that time had a story where he was kind of small guy, tall, but small, a lightweight. Went and played football. I don't think he played high school football until his junior year. And then again, pretty close friend, right? He walked on at EKU, playing football, bulked up, got all big, had an incident happen where he had to quit the team. He got a job at a lumber factory here. Coach convinced him to come back, got back on the team. Long story short, this dude played 13 years in the NFL and just blew up. And there's several other stories I could probably tell you like that of just guys. And again, I don't know if maybe it's just the connection of, hanging out with guys who are very like-minded in the fact that we worked hard, we competitive again, I think we all kind of had that mentality of, we're from little bitty Winchester. Can we get out? Can we get out of this county? Can we get out of this line? Can we make a difference? Can we have crazy success? I remember telling a friend who we drove back and forth to college, because I drove back and forth. I didn't stay on campus. And we had several conversations, and I remember telling her many times, kind of jokingly in a way, but kind of serious, I'm like, I'm going to be big one day. It's like, wait and see. I was like, something big is going to happen. I'm going to make sure it happens. And she would always laugh and stuff. But she always she reminds me of that story. She's like, you told me back in the day you was going to do something. But I love that story. When you were kind of telling that to me, because like part of your story is obviously the fact that you guys are this big production company in Central Kentucky, right? And like when people think about successful video production companies, it's always connected with like, you need to be in California, you got to be in Hollywood. And even the fact that your professors were telling you the only thing you're going to be able to do in little bitty Kentucky here, right, is news and production. And here's this pocket of people that you went to school with, that here you guys are all doing like different things, but all like almost exceeding all expectations. I just think that's like an inspiration for anybody who might be listening right now, because there's a lot of doubters in life that'll say, oh, you're never going to do that. That's never going to happen. And you really have to have that belief in yourself and chase after your passion. So, to kind of be able to go do the things that you want to do. So, and the other thing is I wanted to say real quick, and I'm going to pass it over to Dave, is Jason, I don't know if you knew this, but when I graduated high school, and I've said this to listeners, like I graduated in Kentucky, like one county next to you in Montgomery County. I actually went on a couple of campus visits, and one of the schools that I visited was EKU. It was like my one official visit, and it was really between EKU and Morehead State that kind of, was making a decision. And ultimately, when you're 18 years old, you make a decision based off not the right things. I ended up going to Morehead State and didn't end up getting a degree there or anything like that. Just kind of took a different path in life. But it's cool, man, to hear about the EKU story. And just, I remember being there and kind of I know the vibe that was there when I was there. And it's very similar to some of the things that you were describing. So Dave, I know you had a question that you wanted to kind of to pose to Jason.
Yeah, I think I want to tap into the vein of something that you were saying, Jason, because a lot of times in the business world, we can get caught up in that we're like competing against other businesses, right? But what I hear in you, I think is something super unique and super important to anyone who's in the business world, especially if you're a startup, right? And that's that internal, like I'm almost competing against myself. And I remember hearing Simon Sinek talk about an experience he had speaking both at a Microsoft event and then an Apple event. And at the Microsoft event, they gave him, this is back when the Microsoft Zune existed, and it was like the competitor to the iPod Touch, right? And so Sinek said, I got into the car with the Apple executive and I wanted to kind of poke the hornet's nest. And so he pulls out the Zune. He says to the Apple executive, he says, I was at Microsoft and they gave me their device. He said, and I just got to tell you, it's far superior to the iPod Touch. And the Apple executive paused and looked over at him and said, I'm sure that it is. and that was it. Like nothing else. Like, and he was talking about how Microsoft doesn't even realize Apple's not competing. They're not trying to be better than Microsoft. They're trying to be better than who they were the year before. Yeah. And I hear that same thing kind of rising up in you, man, which was super cool. And I would love for you just to speak to that a little bit, that competitive greatness that you've got going on. How has that driven you and motivated you as you've moved forward through your career?
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of my success. I really that, and this is crazy to say. Maybe I don't know. Maybe this makes a lot of sense. But being very competitive and being kind. I think that people don't underestimate the power of just being kind. To people, and I'm very genuine in that I just love people. I love people. I love getting to know people. Yep. I think that's why my clients are very trusting in me and our company, is because here's the thing. We've been very blessed. We've won a lot of accolades. We got 3 Emmys. We got dozens of gold Addy awards, and it's great. We got them all, in front door as you walk in, and that's awesome to do. But I have a lot more failures and a lot more turns that I would never show you all or never show anybody that I've created, over the almost 20 years that we've been doing this. But the thing is that our clients I think they just have this trust in us that even if we don't do award-winning work, they know that I'm giving everything, my effort to try to create something like David said, something just that was better than the last thing that we created, right? And kind of even going back to golf, golf is a sport that you're playing yourself. You're playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe that's where some of that was kind of built with me, is playing a sport where that's the goal, just to beat your score. The last time you play, you're not necessarily trying to beat everyone around you, trying to beat the score that you did on the last one. And that's what we are essentially doing. And that was really strong in the first decade of my career. Is just, I love the fact that I'm from Central Kentucky, where film is really not even it's a thing. Nobody's doing it. Nobody has any really knowledge of it. A lot of my meetings and a lot of meetings I take with clients is trying to even explain why we need this budget to create this. Right. There's a very big learning curve for clients. There's just not a lot of clients that want to spend a ton of money because they don't get it. And then they're used to a lesser level of production, because most of the people who do commercial work around here are the news stations, right? Right. And they don't have time to really necessarily put a lot of energy, creativity into productions. So for me to create a company where that's solely what we do, is want to create something unique, original. My big word that I use, memorable. Memorable is something I really use in every sales tactic that we put out. It was very risky, and again, I'm rambling here, Dave, on the question you asked, but hopefully I'm answering it in a roundabout way. The only way that I was able to even start my career, so I worked for a cable company for 3 years as a producer. So I'd go out and shoot and edit and do commercial work for local businesses for a cable company. So we got a little more leeway to go and be a little bit more creative, but I still was having to I was still a one-man show. I still would have to go out, very limited lights, very limited time. I would get maybe 2 hours to go to a business and shoot a commercial, bring it back, and there's a lot of times I had to have that thing edited by the end of the day. So you're talking about an 8-hour work day to do one commercial. That just doesn't cut it.
Right.
I started finding ways to try to be as creative as I really could, and I got to be the guy at that office who the clients wanted to work with me, because I was a little more creative than the other guys. And I was try and push a little bit harder. And what I did, I started talking to my clients when they would come into edit sessions, and I'd be like, "Hey, look, I got this idea. Thinking about maybe going out on my own." It's like, what would you think if would you hire me if I could come and you gave me a budget and we could work on a commercial for like a week, as opposed to my one day that I come out. Let me write a script for you that's creative. Let me come out and spend 8 to 10 hours a day and bring a couple of my buddies with me, and we'll shoot a commercial for you that's like no commercial we ever have created before. And I got 2 or 3 of those clients to agree to do that. So I was gone. I left. I went out on my own. I still had to do some part-time stuff here, but I was able to save up a little bit of money to buy my own equipment. And one of the best things that I did, which is I think a big part of what this podcast is and is a part of, is I put myself around people who were doing things better than I was, and I can even just speak to it. There was a few guys who I had a relationship with out of Louisville who were working with big crews. There was a studio up there, big cameras. I just stoked it. I stoked it in. I'm like, just let me be a part of this. I just want.
Nice.
I want to learn. I want to. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to. And through that whole process, within a couple of years, I was starting to hire their guys. Right. I hired those guys because how do you want to look like a rock star? You hire the guys that make you look like a rock star, who knows what they're doing. And that's kind of how it all started. That's how it started, guys, for me. And it hadn't stopped. It just hasn't stopped since then. It's always trying to do better, bigger, grow it, and it's went from just little Jason Epperson, one-man show, to now, now I've got 4 full-time guys working for me. We got our own office building here. We're traveling. Honestly, we travel the world shooting commercials and productions and stuff. So, and it all started from just believing in yourself, putting myself around the right people, going above and beyond. And this is another thing that I tell my clients. I'm like, look, I know you want to do this commercial. You got big ideas. I can guarantee you I want it to be better than you want it to be. Because for us to grow and succeed, I got to be putting out great work. Yes. So there's a lot. There are a ton of sacrifices that I made those first few years, as far as time, all night sessions, being picky, being very, very just going beyond, what the client envisioned to what I had, and what I'm envisioning, and marrying those two together and putting out work that just kept getting more work, right? So
I love what you're saying. It's so ironic to me. So last episode we had Josh Hall on, and one of the things that he said was your vibe attracts your tribe. And I think one of the really impactful things that you're saying is about surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded is so important. So this week I actually was having a meeting with somebody in my networking group, and we were just kind of sitting down and talking, and she kept saying this thing, and this is really more for the listeners, but she kept saying that she was outgrowing people, right? And I was just kind of like, what does that mean? What does it mean to outgrow people? And we kind of talked about it a little bit, and it really what it came down to is that she wasn't happy to settle for anything better than excellent. And so when people became complacent, or when people kind of were like, oh, I'm just kind of comfortable doing the day-to-day, and she saw things that were being missed, like the I's weren't dotted, the T's weren't crossed, and it wasn't great. She was kind of like, you know what, I need to go find somebody that's going to be in alignment with the excellent things that I want to do. And that really resonated with me, even as a business owner, because, and Jason, it's exactly what you're saying, which is why I kind of want to share this with our audience here. This is something that you need to grab onto. Anything less than excellence isn't good enough for your clients. And it's something that you need to recognize, in your business. As soon as you stop striving for excellence, somebody's going to probably pass you. Somebody's going to be doing it better, and you're going to begin to fall behind in whatever your business category is.
Yeah, no, that's the truth. It's funny. I tell people I'm a recovering perfectionist. Seems like, because I did, I think, get to the point where it's, and there's a balance, right? I'm in a career It's funny. I talked to my wife, my current wife, Elizabeth, about this when we started dating. I'm in a career that takes a lot of time. It's very time consuming to create 30-second commercials. I mean, there's many times that's a month-long project, right?
Yeah.
From the inception until delivery, it's a lot of stuff that goes in between there. I really don't work in an 8-to-5 job. You know, my job is essentially I'm going to bed at night thinking of concepts. You know, I keep a notebook right now. I'm jotting it down. I got a notebook in my truck. Sometimes I like to go out for a drive just to come up with concepts and ideas, right? Mm-hmm. It is a very time-consuming job. This goes back to, like I was saying before, a lot of sacrifices were made. You know, I've missed a lot of events, missed a lot of going out with friends and hanging out and doing whatever for the job, you know.
Right.
But, you know, on the flip side of that, you know, my hobby is my job. I love what I do. I have never taken my success, my job, or any of this for granted, ever.
That's awesome.
You know, I wake up and I'm thankful every day, thankful at night, you know, for the opportunities and for just the experiences and what we had. I mean, there's a lot of people who do not enjoy their jobs or what they do and you know, have it much worse. So I'm thankful for it. It's fun. It's always different. It's always unique. You know, we do everything, man. You know, I joke too. I was like, we shoot anything that moves other than weddings. We don't do weddings. Over that. But anything else, man, you know, branding videos, commercials, music videos. I've met a ton of people, you know, been to LA. I mean, we haven't even talked about my experience on the lot, you know. That was huge. That really opened the door for me.
Yeah, Jason, one of the things I want to we can press into that a little bit and even talk about also, I have to say that it's been a long time since I heard a good Louisville. Okay. Everybody here on the East Coast, it says Louisville. Right. And when I heard a good Louisville, I was like, oh baby, we are right where we need to be here.
That's how you say, that's how it's pronounced.
I know. I was like, that's how it said. Everyone here's like Louisville. And I'm like, oh, that's killing me here a little bit.
Just hurts.
Yeah, it just hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, right, you said you connected with people that were better than you you wanted to learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted you like, how did you connect with them? And specifically, I'm asking because if there's somebody out there that really has a passion for something and they want to learn from people who are better than them. And you can even talk about your experience in LA, like going out there, like how were you able to connect with these people, network with these people, and make the necessary connections to kind of be able to grow yourself to where you are today?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I think going back just the fact that I'm a pretty outgoing person, have a big personality, and again, just the genuineness of wanting to learn and wanting to be around people who are really great at what they do and great at what you want to do and want to be. You just have to have that inside you.
Right.
You know, that's something you can't teach or learn, or you just have to have that in you. So that being said, my big, well, I wouldn't say it's my big break, but the big connector I had, especially with these guys in Louisville who were doing work, was through another friend of mine from high school that hung out, did a lot of things together. He moved away. Talked to him for years until about the time, I guess, that I was graduating college. Ran into him downtown Lexington. It's like, and I was actually filming something. I remember I had my camera, and he hollered at me, ran across the street. He's like, "Bro, what are you doing? What are you filming?" He's like, that I got into filmmaking. And I'm like, no way. I was like, that's incredible. He was a very artsy guy too, but me and him kind of shared an interest in art, right? So it's I think kind of ironic and funny that he went in that direction as well. I mean, we're in an art industry, right? It's what it is. So, but he started telling me about his experiences and some of the guys that he's working with on there in Louisville, and I'm like, I've got to meet him. I was like, this is kind of what I want to do. So it was through him, through a friendship, and went up there and met with his guys, and the guys he was running around with they're just phenomenal. And to his credit too, he's one of the best cinematographers in Kentucky. He's had a great career And I, from that point on, I started hiring him for a lot of projects. So I'm like, you're a better cinematographer than me, bro. So I was like, let me hire you to do the project. And that's kind of what kind of drove me into, like, maybe producing and directing is more my thing. I wear lots of hats.
Right.
Truly, truly love to edit. I don't get to do it as much anymore because I'm just too busy scheduling and juggling the projects that we have and working with clients and writing, producing, directing, creative commercials and stuff. But again, kind of rambling here a little bit, but it was through him that made that first connection. Yeah.
So when you were out in Hollywood, what was that connection? If you wouldn't mind sharing about that a little bit and just kind of how you were able to go out there and connect with people.
So I have absolutely no answer with how I learned about it. I do not remember how I found out about the competition. I think it was through a mutual friend who was kind of interested in filmmaking. Said, hey, did you hear about this show? They're looking for contestants. It's called On the Lot. And if for anyone who doesn't know, I guess it's listening, there was a reality show. It was in 2007. It was called On the Lot. This little director by the name of Steven Spielberg, one of the producers, him and Mark Burnett. Mark Burnett actually is a big-time reality show producer. Every reality show out there, he's pretty much has his fingerprints on it. But him and Spielberg hooked up to do a show. It premiered on Fox. It was a show looking for the next big filmmaker. The winner got $1 million deal and their own office in DreamWorks studio. Okay. Pretty cool. And I just randomly submitted a video, which was, I got funny stories. They wanted to submit short films because they're looking for a film director, right? Man, I had no real short films at that point in my career. Nothing, at least that I would want Spielberg to see. But I did have some pretty cool music videos with stories. So I just took a chance and just threw a music video in there. And sure enough, within a couple of weeks, producer contacted me, said, we like this. This is kind of unique. Here's another thing that I did with that. So we had to put like a little bio at the beginning. This Southern, accent, played it up, went to a little diner on the corner, set my camera up. I'm this kid from Kentucky, I just
that is awesome, dude.
Film school, didn't go to LA, didn't go to New York. I'm right here in the middle of Central Kentucky. If you want to take a chance on me, take a chance. So then it plays the video, right? So I think there was a little flair in that the producer's like, let's bring him in. Let's see what he has to say. And so I had to go to Atlanta, do another interview. Long story short, got on the show. And it was kind of like American Idol. I think they chose 50 of us at the beginning. We all got our golden ticket. And then you went out there. And for a couple of weeks, we had to do some different tasks that would narrowed it down to 18 of us. Then at that point, it was like every other week we had to go out and do short films. So it was insane. It was a crazy experience. It was, I wouldn't say stressful, but I was kind of used to doing things pretty quick anyway. My experience, like I said before, I had this job where I had to go out and shoot, write the script, shoot, and edit it, that. A lot of the guys who made it to the show were, USC film students, directors, New York Film Academy stuff. There was only 3 or 4 of us that didn't have any real film. I've never been on a real studio set.
Right.
Ever. Just a few of us kind of made it through that was, were kind of unique in that experience. But again, long story short, I made it all the way to the final 2, runner up on it, which was crazy, awesome. I still got a contract for a couple years that was pretty cool. Moved to LA, and the best part of that whole, I think, experience was, again, the relationships that I made.
Right.
You'll have today. For instance, and I did end up moving back to Kentucky because I just wanted to kind of pick up my business where I left off with it. And because of the experience and the exposure, I just got a lot more work. And at that point, it wasn't like I could just put any price that I want on things, but that exposure and experience came with a little bit more credit, right? So
correct, yeah.
So I say, hey, this is kind of how we did it in LA. And if you want that LA look and feel and exposure, let me use these guys so we could give you that same type of look.
Perfect.
So it was an easier to sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I was going to say is there was an experience. I was able to direct a film here in Kentucky when I got back. It was not my script. It was another guy, a couple guys who wrote the script, but they wanted to hire me to direct it. I made a phone call to one of the cinematographers. So when I was on the show, they gave us the top of the line guys. Like we were working with cinematographers who worked on multi-million-dollar films and with big actors. And, I went from, working with a crew of 3 or 4 of my buddies to, 50 or 60 guys on a crew, right? With professionals who've been on big time shows or, so I call up one of the cinematographers who I become friends with. I'm like, hey, I'm shooting this little movie in Kentucky. Doesn't have a big budget. Now, keep in mind, this guy shot a $200 million Disney movie, right? I'm like, I think we got about $11,000 here. And he did it. He came out.
That's awesome.
Shot it just because we had developed such a great relationship. And like, I'll do it, man. He's like, I just want to hang out and do something fun and be a part of what you are doing. You just can't beat it, man. You can't
put a price tag on it.
No, you can't. So pretty cool experience, pretty cool story.
Yeah, very cool story. Appreciate you sharing that with us. We're just going to pause here a little bit as we transition into the next portion of the interview and talk about one of our sponsors. Today, the show is sponsored by Axe Token. People You Should Know podcast is proud to have Axe Token as a sponsor. Axe is a brand new cryptocurrency and NFT that's built upon principles that are truly unprecedented in today's financial market. Axe is here to help you to build legacy and generational wealth while also performing acts of kindness that change the lives of orphans, widows, and survivors of abuse. To visit them and learn more about their upcoming public launch, visit www.axetoken.com.
So, Jason, I want to talk a little bit about some Kentucky things, if that's cool with you. So, one of the best known secrets to Kentucky is this soda that's there called Ale 8. And I know that you shot some commercials for them, which I've actually watched a couple of them. And because I haven't had an Ale 8 in probably 13 years.
Dang.
It's very much centered around like Ale 8 doesn't leave the state of Kentucky. I don't think it's just there. But just wanted to talk to you about some of the really cool cultural Kentucky things just to share with the audience. Ale 8's one of them. Derby Day is another one, like the Kentucky Derby and the importance of that. And then Kentucky basketball is just absolutely crazy. So maybe you can tell me, out of those 3 things, like which one of those things do you enjoy the most? Do you enjoy the soda? Do you enjoy the Derby, or do you enjoy Kentucky basketball the most?
Wow, I have to pick one, huh? That's a toughie. Well, I'll speak. Now, I'm not a big horse fan, to be honest. I'll go to the races, and I'm Derby's fun. Of course, that's a good experience. But I will talk of basketball in the L8. When I was actually in Los Angeles on the show, I made a phone call because they were already a client of mine at that point.
Okay.
Is there any chance you could send us some L8 out here? I had everybody on that set craving L8. They all wanted me to keep playing every week and like, man, send us some more L8, please.
Yeah.
They loved it. And L8 actually sent me a shirt, I think a shirt and a hat, but I wore it on one of the live shows.
That is awesome, man. I love that.
Keep that client for a few more years. They're a lot of fun, and they like to do a lot of fun, creative stuff. But on the basketball, I've always been a UK basketball fan.
Yep.
Oh, very passionate to a fault. For sure.
Me too, man. I feel you. It's bad.
Yes, yeah, it is bad. But that actually led to one of our most successful documentaries that we did on being a UK fan and what does that look like and how we're all over the world. It was called The Sixth Man. Kind of a fun story with that is it started on a whim. Me and a couple guys were sitting in the office. We were kind of talking. We were kind of brainstorming on what can we do? What kind of documentary can we do about Kentucky that's not been done?
Right.
been the story, Adolph Rupp biopics. There's been the different teams that have won the national championships. And then, my buddy's like, why don't we do something on us? Like, we're crazy. People think we're crazy. Like, let's go find the craziest fans that we can and see if we can come up with a story. And we love it. And even that day, it's either that day or that week, they were, so for people who don't know, our fans camp out weeks before the first practice for tickets to get in to what, they'll camp out and they'll stay in the line for weeks to get a ticket to go to a practice. And if you are our head coach, John Calipair, he says, we're crazy. And he's right. That's crazy. Who does that? So it was actually the week where the fans were camping out. So we took a camera. We went down there and started filming all these interviews of different people, developed some relationships, and started asking around, like, who do you know? Who do you know? And we found these people who had converted their whole basements into Rupp Arena. We had one lady, she was like in her 90s, who collected every UK memorabilia that she could and put it on her front lawn. There's a great shot in the movie where I do this pan all the way down the street, normal house, and then you get here, it's like, what in the world? It's just like a blue UK bomb exploded on this lady's front. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's just like, it's stupid. But we started filming all this stuff. We could not get an interview with John Calipair, the head coach. Right?
Oh, man.
We couldn't get in. We couldn't get this. We couldn't get all these different things until I finally said, you know what? I'm going to make a trailer, and I'm going to make this trailer freaking awesome and see if I can generate some buzz. Put it out there, and pretty quickly, it got picked up by this really popular podcast and radio show called Kentucky Sports Radio.
Thanks for listening to the People You Should Know podcast. Do you know somebody amazing? Do you wish everyone knew about them? We can't wait to hear from you. Drop by one of our social pages and send us a message with your nominee to be a featured guest on People You Should Know.
It was purely a passion project. We're like, we're going to do this regardless if we get any money or not. We don't need that. We'll just do it. It might take a little bit longer, but we're going to do it. And that went on for 2 years, 2.5 years, until we finally come across an investor who said, and at that point I was getting pretty busy. I was working on a couple different other big projects. So it was really hard to do the post-production for that. I think we had enough content at that time, but just pulling off the edit was getting kind of frustrating. I had one investor who met with us who said, how much money you need? Let me throw it at you so you can finish it out. And luckily for us, we did it over the summer right after we won the national championship. So
that's awesome.
Perfect.
It was perfect timing. And then we released it before the season started, that very next season. So it really worked out perfectly. We screened it all over Kentucky. We got a bunch of former UK players came out, signed autographs. It was a great experience. One of the best projects that I've been a part of, for sure.
Yeah. So the problem with those three things that I kind of made you choose from is they all go really well together. So it's really hard to pick one. And as a Kentucky basketball fan myself, I feel, so my dad's a Duke fan, Jason, which is, it's just painful for me. Yeah. I don't know what happened. He didn't become a Duke fan until I declared my Kentucky fandom about when Pitino won his first national championship is when I became a fan. That's really, and I was about a 7 or 8 then. And so, and then after that, all of a sudden I found out that he liked Duke. So it's been a very interesting dynamic over the years. The trash talk is pretty epic.
I'm surprised you're all even still told you at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that type of thing in Kentucky is like, you get disowned in a family if you speak Duke basketball. So Jason, yeah, exactly. So Jason, just one final question we wanted to ask you here before we wrap up. And this is a staple of our show. And we ask everybody this question. We are a show that focuses on networking. You've talked a lot about being connected with people, how you've got connected. And one of the questions that we like to ask everybody is just, is there one person, or who is one person that has been like the biggest influence on you that you've met? Maybe not necessarily family, or obviously not your wife, because I mean, we could all say a spouse, but somebody that you met, that you connected with, that has been just such a great influence and unlocked some of your greatest potential out of you from meeting them.
Wow. Should have thought through this for a little bit before you asked. I think I could point the finger at a few different influential people who's really helped out. I've got a really good friend, and I'll use this person for an example.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that could be a lot of different people. Again, I could say my dad easily because he was very influential. And,
absolutely, yeah.
We shared similar passions and success and growing. But there's one story I was actually going to talk about earlier. There's a guy by the name of Lark Watts. He was friends with my brother. They played in rock bands together, right? Okay. So when I went off on my career, again, this was around 2005-ish or so. I told you, I had a real passion for music, had a real passion for video. What's the best thing that kind of marries those together? Music videos.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Right? MTV.
Yeah, that's just when MTV was kind of happening, right?
Yep.
So, an initial dream, launching right out of college, I want to be the next big music video director, right? And we were close to Nashville, the Nashville market, all that stuff, but I didn't have any real good connections. My brother calls me up, says, "Hey, you remember Lark that I grew up with? We played in those bands and stuff together." Yep. It's like, he's in Nashville. He wants to know if you'll do a music video for him. He has no money, but he'll come up here to where we're at if you want to help out and be a part of it. So I talked to him. He actually had a little bit of money, not much.
Right.
He came to us. We shot this video, and he made a promise. He said, "Look," he says, "do this video for me. I'm going to go back to Nashville." He's like, "I'm really well connected. I've got a lot of friends, a lot of bands, a lot of influential people down there. Like, let's do a kick butt video, and let me see if I can get you more work." So, all right. So we did this video. Turned out, I was super, super proud of it. Turned out really good.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, he actually, when he went down, he had a connection in with GAC, Great American Country Network, and got it on.
Sweet.
Yeah, I got it played on there. It's my first time ever having a video played on a big network, I think. So that was just a super cool experience. And he kept his promise. It wasn't, I don't think it was a month later. He called me back up. He said, "All right." He said, "I got our first video and I got our first budget for us." He had such a good time doing it with me that we kind of teamed up. So he was kind of a producer and I was the video production team, right? I kind of helped direct and produce and a little bit of everything. So the first group that we did was a band, and the lead singer was a bus driver. So a bunch of guys down there had to have two.
Yeah.
He was a bus driver for another group that was pretty big. So we had, I don't know, I think they raised about $3,500 or something. We shot this music video. Well, when they went back, they showed the guy who drove the bus showed the band that he drove the bus for. They loved the video, so they hired me to do the next video.
Oh, nice!
It just
snowballed.
It snowballed, and from that, we started getting bigger names. We did like John Michael Montgomery, Sawyer Brown. Some pretty notable groups with bigger, but the budget just grew. And that was all because of Lark Watts. So
that's awesome, man.
Maybe you all need to know Lark Watts. He's a connector. Yeah. That dude, and I knew it early on. And here's a funny thing too, is he ended up directing a lot of these videos, and he was a natural salesman. I don't know if he knew that or not, but I think our personalities meshed in the way that, again, we were just like, people just trusted him, and he had no real experience other than the connection with me of doing music videos and he got record labels to say, "All right, Lark Watts, we're going to have you do this video for us. So we just trust that you're going to get it done." And Lark had enough trust in me to be able to make that happen. So that was a really cool time in my life. It was about a 2-year span. I really thought, honestly, even towards the end of that span, I started talking to agencies in Nashville that would hire music video directors out, and do that. I really thought that's where I was going to go. And then I got a little phone call from LA saying, "Hey, do you want to be on a reality show?"
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where things kind of got derailed a little bit, and that's the story. And then here I am.
Yeah, man. Jason,
I do miss them a little bit.
Yeah. So what's Lark doing like nowadays? Like that might be somebody that we need to know, and maybe some of our listeners need to know. What's he doing nowadays?
Well, he's a musician himself, so he kind of plays locally. He plays locally. I say locally. I mean central Kentucky type area, but good dude. I don't talk to him as much as I used to, so probably I need to reconnect with him as well. But he was a good dude. Real kind of help prepare. Very influential in my career.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Well, Jason, I wanted to thank you for being on today. I think that there's an opportunity and to have you back on again, because unfortunately our show's only like an hour long, and I feel like we didn't get to hardly anything because there are so many awesome, like you have great stories, great encouragement for our audience. Like I sit back and I listen to a lot of what you said, and like it is really impactful. It really shows the power of relationships. And additionally, and Dave, maybe you can speak to this a little bit more, but like the importance of being genuine and authentic when you're out there doing business with people, just being real with people. And I think one of the things you said that I've been thinking about more and more in my own life and my own business is just like truly loving being around people, loving people, and really just trying to do the best you can for the client, not because it's going to help your business, but because you're just truly trying to like love people and help propel them to the next level in their business as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that you can ever go wrong. I actually tell people all the time, whoever serves most wins. and that's just, especially when it comes to clients, if they know that you're in their corner, that you care about them more than the money that you're going to get from them, in the end, that will always serve you best and serve your company way further, than just getting a single project from somebody, because it's going to, mean return business. Mm-hmm. So, well said. For sure.
Well said. Yeah.
Now, Jason, go ahead, Jason.
Now, I was just going to add to that. I really feel that's what I kind of try to hone most of that's what I want my career to be kind of known for. And again, the last few years has been different, trying to manage and run a company with employees. It's hard. It's difficult. I've made a ton of mistakes. I'm so used to doing it by myself for so long. So it's a new area. It's a new world, but I'm trying to go at it. Just like when I worked for my dad pumping the poop tanks,
man.
Very humbly, very honest. When I make mistake, I try to own up to it and just do better. And just trying to figure it out every day, one day at a time, right, guys?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah.
Jason, how can people find you? Either like your website or social contacts. Where can they find you at?
Pretty much throw in the Eppic Films on anything. EPPIC Films. That came from my last name, Epperson, with 2 P's. Yep. So we're the Epic with the extra P.
Oh, fantastic.
And epicfilms.com. We have everything right there. You can check us out.
Perfect. And we'll also have a link to your website in our show notes as well. So Jason, thank you once again for being on the show. My expectations of having you on you surpassed it, which was amazing, because you have some incredible stories. You've experienced things, and yet I think the biggest thing that I want to like kind of drive home here at the very end is that you have remained extremely humble. And if there's no other lesson that anybody gets out of anything else, I mean, there's a lot in here, but is remain humble, remain thankful and grateful, and, continue to like love people and be grace-filled as you're going about running your business.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to talk to you guys.
Thanks for joining us this week on the People You Should Know podcast. A very special thank you to today's guests for sharing their journey with us. If you have been listening to the podcast and have really been enjoying it, would you consider giving our show a 5-star rating or leaving a review if you are on a platform that allows you to do that? Leaving us a review will help other people to discover our content and could be the difference in them making the connections they need to unlock their greatness. More importantly, we want to hear from our fans and would love your feedback so we know how our show is inspiring you to chase your dreams. Also, if you are not getting our email alerts when new episodes are released, be sure to sign up today. You can do that by going to heydouyouknow.com and putting your email right in the episode alerts box. Once again, thank you for joining the People You Should Know podcast. We hope that today's episode has inspired you to connect with others and unlock your greatness.
Thanks for listening to the People You Should Know podcast. Do you know somebody amazing? Do you wish everyone knew about them? We can't wait to hear from you. Drop by one of our social pages and send us a message with your nominee to be a featured guest on People You Should Know.